Good afternoon, guys. It's Workin, bringing you a quick update on, we're trying to look at Bitcoin, EOS, Ethereum, and Ripple. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're going to start off with Bitcoin to the US dollar. This is the one-day chart on Bitfinex, and I wanted to start off with the bigger picture, guys, because things are getting a little bit repetitive, and I don't want to just keep repeating myself on these updates, but I do want to keep you updated. And I want to make sure you guys remember the bigger picture. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in the trees and forget the forest. How's that saying go? You miss the forest for the trees, and I think sometimes that's what happens. So remember, guys, if we're going back all the way since December of last year when we had that $20,000 high. Ever since then, every single rally since then, and I've showed you guys this before, has just lost momentum little by little by little by little all through the last 10 months or so of 2018. We can see this one, we can see just a little bit lost, a little more lost here, a little more lost here, and we're not just seeing it in the degree to which the impulse waves of each one of these small rallies have gone vertical. Every single time we can see it with these arrows, it's just been a little bit more sideways, a little bit more sideways, a little bit less volume, and so on, guys, to the point to where we're now almost moving directly sideways here, which is very indicative of, we're reaching that turning point in the market where, people have decided on what the fair market value of Bitcoin is. And at that point, guys, it's either going to go one of two ways. And I know I've talked about this before, but again, I want to give you guys kind of a deeper look into the market and how people are thinking. People are holding on to their Bitcoin. About 6,000, 6,500, somewhere in there is what people have agreed on the fair market value of Bitcoin is as of right now. It's not really moving. We're not getting, the volatility isn't there as it used to be. We can see it creating continuous lower highs every single time it goes, continuous sideways movement every single time it spikes, to the point to where now it's just almost flatlining, which means one of two things. It all depends on if the bulls or the bears have the greater amount of strength in this case, and of course it always depends on market makers and what they decide to do. But if nobody is making money, are people really holding this for the long haul? In other words, are they willing to accept no gains until Bitcoin starts to move, and will they just hold their Bitcoin? In which case, we'll get a very long, drawn-out, boring market like we've had in the past. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think one of two things are going to happen. I think people are willing to wait for so long, and then they're just going to end up either selling their Bitcoin and price is just going to crash, or people are going to say, okay, I've been waiting, and this is I'm leaning towards this, although I'm almost 50-50, but I'm leaning towards, people have been waiting to get into this market. It's almost a certainty that a big institutional money is going to enter this market. It's just a matter of when. And people have been waiting to get in at lower prices, almost expecting Bitcoin to drop to at least $5,000, which is not an unrealistic expectation. That's a very real possibility. So a lot of retail is waiting to enter the market until it does make that big drop that everybody's kind of waiting for. It breaks this support line that's held all of 2018. And when that does, I do believe there's a lot of new money waiting down here to enter that market. That being said, if it just starts flatlining going sideways, are they going to start thinking, okay, this is it? Price is going to explode. We know ETFs are eventually coming, whether it comes in December or sometime in 2019, it's going to come. And when that happens, likelihood is price is going to explode. Should I go ahead and just get in now before it does explode? When accept the risk that it might drop. And if they do that, this thing, it could spark a bull run. Once people start buying, once the prior high of any one of these is taken out, so in this case, this prior high here of about $7,420, if that gets taken out, that's going to start this entire shift we've seen here, or this entire pattern we've seen of price spiking, creating a lower high, coming back down, a lower high, coming back down, etc., etc. That is going to get broken, and when that gets broken, people will take notice, and when they take notice, they're going to say, this might be it. I need to get in before this thing takes off, and it just takes off. The other side of that coin is if people just start getting frustrated, saying, I bought into this expecting to get the kind of gains I got back in December. They get frustrated, say, this thing is flatlining, this thing is dead, Bitcoin is dead. I better get out while I can and try to save some of the money while I can before it, or try to hold on to some of my profits or some of my losses. I don't want to take any more losses before this thing tanks. If that happens, this thing will just fall over. And of course, that could snowball. You know, everyone's saying, "Oh my gosh, the 2018 low has been broken. I better get out now." Next person sells, and before you know it, this thing has crashed down to 4,500, somewhere thereabouts. Even 3,000. Although I don't think it would ever get that low. But down here is where the money is waiting to buy those orders if it does crash. So the question is, which is going to happen first, guys? And honestly, I don't know. I know some analysts, it's about 50-50 right now. But the point is, it looks to me like the market is ready to pop one way or another. If we zoom in here to the 4-hour on Bitfinex, guys, we can see that we have come outside of this larger wedge. Price did come up, created almost this double top we talked about yesterday, and then broke right back down. I was telling you yesterday that we were watching this zone right in here. Go ahead and draw it again, right here. Actually a little bit lower than that. Right in here, guys, this was the zone that we were watching that I was telling you that needed to hold. If that did hold, that'd be a rather bullish sign. And as of now, price came in, whipped through it, and got pushed back up. It is holding as of now. And it's also, if I kind of zoom in here, look at this from a more technical perspective and go, okay, here's our latest swing low. Here's our latest swing high of this microstructure. Let me get right on that swing low there. And that latest microstructure, am I seeing a technical move here? Price came down. What happened? Boom, perfect hit right here off the 618 fib. Price got pushed back up. Now, it could absolutely still collapse, but that's a very technical hit. This is a very technical area that we would expect price to possibly impulse up from here. Doesn't mean it's going to, just means this is a very technical hit. If this does end up breaking down, guys, if we do go any lower than this 618 fib, and I think I talked about this yesterday, so that sits at around 6,600, somewhere thereabouts, I think it'll be a very quick drop to at least 6,540, and I really think this 6,540 is going to be a decision zone as to whether or not we get a nice bounce off that, or whether or not price collapses. And if it does collapse, I think the next stop is going to be 64.50, somewhere thereabouts, and it could just collapse from there, although we could get a bounce off of 64.50 as well. But it could very quickly snowball to the downside if 65.40 does break. If 65.40 holds, I think we'll more than likely either get a nice bounce or just kind of consolidate sideways as we have been here until the market makers decide to move this thing in one direction or another. If we zoom in here to the hourly, we are seeing this little bounce here was very easily seen here on the charts. In fact, if I go here and look at this prior swing low, swing high, obviously this was a higher low. If I look at the same point on the chart, what do we have? We have a lower low. Obviously, that was this was an uptrend, this little microstructure here. And so we have hidden bullish divergence, which is being reflected in the chart right now on the hourly with this little bounce. Now, does that mean that's going to continue up? We're only seeing that on the hourly, so no, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to continue up at all. But we absolutely, it absolutely could. In fact, if I look at the hourly RSI, we created almost a perfect double bottom here. Price came up, back down, perfect double bottom here, right at the bottom of that oversold zone, right at almost 30, and then bounced back up. So yes, this makes sense that price might end up impulsing up from here. We've got that technical hit of the 618, and we've got this, we've got that that demand zone, that little demand zone that we pointed out is holding as of now, and we have this on the hourly. We have this hidden bullish divergence. So all says that we might get this little bounce up here to test 67.50, which is really what we need to decisively break above. And for now, we're just trading within that 65.40 to 67.50 range. One of those has to get broken to establish a new trend in one direction or another, and I do think those are the two areas to watch decisively. Now, again, we're not seeing that divergence on the 4-hour, we're not seeing it on the daily, it's only on the hourly, which means that it could just be this small bounce, and then we could continue to the downside. Again, I'm not entering any trades at all. If you wanted to possibly enter a trade here at 65.40, that would not be a bad idea, but really for me, the areas where I'd be comfortable laddering it, I do hold. I mean, I do have some long-term holds, guys. I still own Bitcoin. I'm not completely out of my Bitcoin, but as far as my day trading, I'm not entering any kind of a scalp day, swing trade, anything like that until price reaches down to this lower level, somewhere around 63.80 to 62.80. This is where I'd be interested in a quick swing or scalp trade very, very quickly off of Bitcoin. But for now, I'm just kind of waiting to see which direction market makers take this thing, and then I'll add to my position accordingly. All right, coming over to EOS. EOS, again, we're seeing a similar pattern to Bitcoin. It has not broken out of this wedge, but we did briefly here, but came right back in, still reaching the apex here, still a lot of room to possibly end up taking off. Price continues to get squeezed tighter and tighter and tighter, which does suggest as we reach the apex of this wedge, we might see a larger move here in the next few days. We'll just have to wait and see kind of how this ends up playing out. But we are seeing some technical moves on EOS as well. Pardon me, guys. I'm going to drink water. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, price came up here. We are seeing some technical structure to the market, I should say. Not technical, structure to the market, I should say. We did come up here, created almost a perfect double top here. Price broke right back down. Bulls were able to capture it here. If I go swing low, swing high of this latest microstructure, we have a perfect hit right here off of the 50. That coincides nicely with the top of this zone that's acting as support, sitting at about right at $5.83. We know that is a very relevant zone, as I've pointed out many times in the past. So if that does end up holding, guys, we could see a nice, very impulsive break up. Not saying that's going to happen, just saying it's very, as of right now, it's certainly a real possibility. To the downside, guys, if we do end up breaking below this $5.83, I do think it would be possibly testing the bottom of this ascending support line here, bottom of this wedge. I'd be looking for a nice little bounce off that area here, unless we are breaking out of the wedge. And if we do end up breaking out, I do think if it is to the downside, I do think it'll be more of an impulsive breakdown. And if that does happen, guys, I think it'll very quickly possibly drop to this zone down here at about at about $5.55. But I think more than likely, if we do get a breakdown out of this wedge, we're going to be targeting somewhere around 526. That's the lower part of this ascending support line, the larger wedge that this is that price has been in here. And this is the area that I'd be looking to add to my EOS position if you're looking to go long or something of that nature. I'd be very interested in buying at $5.26. That'd be the buy zone for me. May not ever get down there, and you certainly could take the risk and buy now, guys. This isn't a bad idea to dollar cost average in. Just for me, guys, to add to my position, I'm going to wait for it to possibly either break out of this and establish a new trend, or if it does drop, this is where I'll be interested in buying at $5.26. If I come and zoom in here, guys, we're seeing a very similar thing to Bitcoin on the hourly chart. We go to point. We can see this created a higher high. Pardon me, guys. And if we go to the exact same point, I'm sorry, from this point to this point, we created a higher high. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see it a little bit better. And if we go to the exact same point, go straight down, what do we have? We have a lower low on the RSI. We have the same thing on the histogram for the MACD. Obviously, this was an uptrend. That's hidden bullish divergence, and we are kind of seeing that with this little bounce that we saw here recently. Now, we're not seeing it on the larger time frame, so again, this might be short-lived. It'll be very interesting what happens when we get back up to this ascending resistance line here, the top of this wedge, see if we get this nice bounce. But again, I'm not seeing any good setup for EOS at the moment. Again, if you want to go long, dollar cost average in, certainly this thing could take off. Certainly this thing could break out, and if it does, of course, we're going to be watching this $6.14 range, guys. It's going to have to break above that. And we may just consolidate, and if it does consolidate in that zone, guys, I'm fine with that. That'd actually be a bullish sign, in my opinion, if we can consolidate in $4.14, guys. I do think more than likely, if it does end up doing that, it's going to prepare for a larger move up, and I think that larger move up could quickly take it. As soon as we break $6.14, we can come up here to $6.45 between this $6.45 and $6.70. That's that supply zone I told you guys about yesterday. Pardon me. Coming over here to Ethereum. Ethereum, the pattern is looking a little more bearish. We are kind of having this almost a bearish pennant forming here, kind of a rising wedge, if you will, especially if we zoom in here to the hourly, you can kind of see it a little bit better. So this is typically a bearish pattern that we're seeing. That being said, exactly like we saw with EOS and Bitcoin, if I can zoom in here and zoom in here, and I go point to point, what do we have? Obviously, created a higher low. And if I come point to point, the exact same point, we have a lower low. Also the exact same thing on the RSI, from point to point, a lower low. And that suggests what? Obviously, this microstructure was an uptrend, hidden bullish divergence, and that's kind of why we're seeing this very small spike in price right here. Now, Ethereum, as I said, looks a little more bearish to me, and I do think if it does break down out of this kind of rising wedge pattern here, although not really kind of more of a bear flag, if it does end up breaking down, I think we're going to be looking at the bottom of this zone here at 219, 220, somewhere thereabouts. If that does break, I think it could be a free fall down to 210. somewhere in this area down here. So this in 205 to 210 would not be a bad place to stack in buy orders for Ethereum, in my opinion, if you're looking for a quick scalp trade or a quick day trade somewhere in thereabouts. This is where I'd be looking at laddering in buy orders if it does end up breaking down. To the upside, I do think if price does end up breaking, let me come back here to the 4-hour. I do think if price breaks up, which again, I'm not favoring that at the moment, just kind of based on this pattern here, but if that does, certainly not, if Bitcoin breaks up, Ethereum will break up more than likely. If that does, we're going to have to take out this zone right here. This is where it's going to find a lot of resistance, somewhere around 230, 235, somewhere thereabouts, guys. This is, if you are buying, if you are wanting to buy this zone here between 226 and 220, I'd be targeting this zone, and this is where a very quick scalp, this is where I'd get out immediately. If it does come up in this area, I do think you'd get a decent bounce off this zone. That being said, if it does break above this zone, I think it could be a very quick rise to 250, 251, somewhere thereabouts, guys. But again, Ethereum's just looking a little more bearish to me, but that being said, we know it's going to follow Bitcoin if Bitcoin does end up breaking up. Coming in, finally ending with Ripple. There we go. Looking at Ripple. Ripple ended up breaking down here, guys. It's just kind of pounding away at this support between the top of which is 47 cents. We can see it broke down. Perfectly hit this support that I was discussing last time we talked about Ripple. Told you this is the area to watch. It's just been bouncing literally right on top of it ever since. And of course, if we look at where that is, if we get a little more technical look at this and we go from our swing low to our swing high at the top of this wick here. What is this? Where is this zone? It coincides perfectly with the 618 fib. Let me kind of bring this back out here, guys, so you can kind of see that a little bit better. And there we go. Extend it out. There we go. See, it's just literally just bouncing right along the top of the 618 fib. So we might end up getting a nice little bounce here. And if it does, I'd be watching this zone right here. I do think this is where it would find some resistance, sitting at about 53 cents, somewhere thereabouts, possibly 51 cents. Ripple looks a little more bullish to me, and that, you know, this buying right here, if it does end up breaking back down, buying at about 46, 47 cents is not a bad idea, in my opinion. And targeting about 50, 51 cents, 50 cents if you want to be conservative, that seems like a decent risk to reward to me. But I would have a very tight stop loss, possibly sitting somewhere around 44, 43.5 cents, 44 cents, somewhere thereabouts. Because if 44 cents does break down, it could be a free fall all the way down to 35 cents, and that would be a big hit. So make sure if you are buying Ripple, if you do want to take this chance, and again, this doesn't look like a bad idea to me. I could certainly understand, but I would just have a very, very tight stop loss, because again, if 44 cents breaks down, guys, it could be a very quick free fall down to 35 cents, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you have any, pardon me, guys, a little frog in my throat. If you have enjoyed this content, please remember to give me an upvote. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Workin, signing out.